I would like to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, and there's no judgment at all on this podcast, where do you feel you are in terms of...
In your 20s, you're like, money, money, money,
Yeah.
money. It was never supposed to turn into this whatsoever. Like, there's got to be a way to make an energy bar that tasted good. The branding was always so good on bars, and then I'd eat one, and it was so disappointing.
Yeah.
And I wanted the bar inside the packaging to be as good as the branding was going to be.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for everyone starting like young now, because social media is so much pressure. You know, you think everyone else is killing it, and there you are grinding it out, and behind the scenes, everyone's grinding it out.
We don't want to be for everybody, but it's still at the same time, when I get those rejections, I'm just like, well, why don't they want us? Yeah.
I think that's part of business.
Let's bring in Grant White, portfolio manager.
An investment advisor.
Welcome to the Finding Your Wealth podcast. What this whole podcast is about is redefining the conversation around wealth.
The whole thing is absolutely a bit of a tire fire, in my opinion. I don't like drama, and this stock is surrounded by drama.
Okay, well, I'm so excited to have you here today, Cheryl. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me.
Always.
You were quite literally our second guest that we're having on the show,
Exciting.
which is super exciting for us. The first guest we had was a psychologist that I work with. We talked about the concepts of wealth, but now we're actually getting into like somebody who's like living an entrepreneurial journey, and I've followed you along for so many years now, I think, and so it's like just fun to get you in here to talk about all this stuff with you. So thank you so much for joining
You're welcome.
me today.
I'm excited to talk about this topic.
So I'm going to just jump in. One of the things that we do on a regular basis, and one of the things that we've created around this whole concept of like identifying wealth in a different way than most people think about it, and really just focusing in on the freedom that like wealth should really represent. I would like to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, and there's no judgment at all on this podcast or anywhere, where do you feel you are in terms of your own wealth?
And one being
like you're not free at all.
Okay.
You're
10
completely
being free bird.
10's being a free bird, yeah.
I would say I'm probably a 7. And I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like if you asked that of me 5-6 years ago, it would probably been more like a 3, 4. But nowadays, with the changes I've made at Cranked and in my personal life as well, with some of the boundaries I've set up for my own health and wellness and time with my family and my parents who are aging, obviously, I feel more like a 7. Yeah. Which is kind of nice.
That's good. I don't think I can't remember where I ranked myself, but it wasn't 7.
No?
Yet. No.
Well, I'm a little bit older than you, so I should be a little maybe further along in terms of that journey.
Yeah. Like I think, 7's probably about right. I think I had myself at a 6 last month.
Oh, okay.
And I'm working on it. And my goal is to get to 10 by the
What
end
would
of...
10 look like though?
10 for me means like I can do what I want. Like, you know what, to me, like I have this idea in my head where it's like, if I want to be able to go to travel somewhere, I just want to be able to go and do it, not think about it too much. I just want to go and do it. I want to bring my girls with me and just go and do it. And that's kind of like the extreme example of what that looks like for me. But I think that's what a 10 looks like, where I don't think about, certainly not the financial side of it. And I'm in control enough of my schedule to just be able to do that almost on a whim, like within a couple weeks notice kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like more like a time, it's like freedom of time to be able to just say 2 weeks from now, we're going away from a month or 2 weeks or even 5 days.
Completely. Yeah. But then my business is still running and still growing at the same time.
Nobody even really knows you're gone.
Exactly.
Right? Because it's still, that would be a nice 10.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet either.
No.
No.
What's a 10 for you then?
I would say that as well, not still thinking constantly about, well, at Cranked, it's always about cash flows and how we're going to pay for this. And that's stressful, obviously, when you're growing and not making a ton of money. But on the personal side as well, new roof, not having to be like, oh my goodness, where are we going to find $15,000 to do that kind of stuff? I think that freedom would be really nice. And I know it's monetary, but it's also like your home and taking care of your home and being able to do that without really feeling it like you have to save for a year to get a new roof next year. That would be great. And travel.
Yeah.
And more time with my parents and, right? Not having to dash to work all the time, but maybe having more flexibility to spend with, coffee with my mom and dad. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like, I mean, when we first started exploring this concept and really looking at what true wealth is to people, everybody kind of keeps coming back to like, it's more about time. Like, yeah, you need the financial resources to do the things that you want to do. Like you're talking about even like the roof and stuff like that. Nobody wants to worry about that. But the time is it's everybody talks about that. It's like, oh, I would love to spend more time with my parents or with my kids or this or that. So I think you're touching on something that's, that's kind of universal in that definition. I want to dive a little bit more into that type of stuff, but I do want to share, I want to share your story, of course, with the listeners as well. I know your story, but like, would you mind maybe just telling us a little bit more about Cranked and how you got started with it?
With Cranked? Oh,
yeah.
I'm like, what do they call it? Like surprise entrepreneur. Like I fell into it because I was at home with 3 small children. I'm a CPA by trade. I was facilitating courses for the CPA School of Business, which was a contract position. I'd been doing it for many years, since 2004, so almost a decade at the time. And it was great. I would, facilitate some classes online and then write questions for the CPA school. And it was great. I guess I was an entrepreneur then too, because I was contracting my services and still at home raising the kids. And I was just looking for an energy bar that was tasty, was fresh. It was like I wanted to find it in the fridge. I didn't want it on a shelf, and didn't leave my stomach feeling weird, like I just ate a bunch of chemicals. And I thought I would just create one for myself and the family, and tinkered with it for 3 years. It was never supposed to turn into this whatsoever. But you know what? When you're an entrepreneur and something just keeps nagging at you, everyone's like, how did you keep doing it for 3 years? Like changing the recipe and figuring it out. It just kept gnawing at me. Like there's got to be a way to make an energy bar that tasted good. Everything on the market was awful tasting and chalky. And the branding was always so good on bars. And then I'd eat one and it was so disappointing.
Yeah.
And I wanted the bar inside the packaging to be as good as the branding was going to be.
Yeah.
So people would just keep buying it and buying it and buying it and not worry about, whether it was a higher priced bar, but that they loved it and they loved our brand. So that took a long time to develop. So we've just been plugging away for a decade. We just celebrated 10 years at Cranked.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You kind of say you were an accidental entrepreneur. Did you just like come across it, or was this something that was part of you, like as a kid growing up? Like, were you like?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. I was the one that used to have Easter cream eggs. For some reason, I could get them at a fundraiser, and no one else could get them. And then I'd take them to school and sell them.
Are you serious?
I was that girl.
That's amazing.
Yeah, little too, like 8 or 9 years old, and hustling gum, whatever. I'd go buy it and sell it at school. So I think it was always in me. At KPMG, I was the social coordinator. I was always building relationships. And I'm actually not very extroverted, which is fascinating to people. I love connecting in meaningful relationships, but then I also love being by myself and sitting and like rejuvenating that way as well. So I think I've always was meant to do something on my own. And then I could control the community aspect that we do and the time, and everything we do at Cranked is because I've chosen to guide it that way. So I will take responsibility if it goes off the rails, right?
Yeah.
So that's
I mean, there's always an interesting, like, I find inflection point with there's not like a story just like yours, of course, but it's like I wanted to create a bar that I would enjoy. When did you decide that this is something you wanted to do for other people as well at the same time?
Well, I think Winnipeg's such a sharing community. So the second I had like a pretty tasty bar and I was just giving it to friends and family, and they're like, this is so good. There's nothing on the market. You need to do it. And I would just keep making trays. Like I was just, and then Abby Khan, I'm sure you know Abby,
of course.
has the green carrot. He tried a bar at a golf tournament and was like, I want them for my store. And I was like, oh poop. Like now I got to get a commercial kitchen going, right? Like that's when you decide, am I going to do this? Like, do I want to try it? Yeah. And I really wanted to test the market and see how it was going to do. And so we started with Green Carrot, and then word of mouth, we had a few small gyms, and it started like that. I was still side hustling though. So it was this, I never fully committed that it was a product that could go the whole way until like 3 or 4 years in, I'd say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was still not confident in maybe my own abilities as an entrepreneur. I'm from corporate. I'm making this huge leap. 3 small children, like no benefits. We're like, am I going to do this? This is crazy. Right. And so, but I love our product and I love the brand and I love my team and our customers. And I was like, this is what makes me happy every day. I really do love going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think you have to. I mean, in any entrepreneurial like pursuit, you have to enjoy. Like I've been exploring this myself more recently and just thinking about it because like it's not about the end point. I mean, the end point is literally death. Like it's like we're not done and like nobody's like we shouldn't be keeping score today. We've got like this long runway ahead of us. But if you don't enjoy like the pathway and the journey and the ups and downs of it, like you shouldn't do it because like it's way too hard. It's way if you don't enjoy that part, that's like your whole life basically.
Pretty much. There's never been 1 or 2 months in a row that we're like, we're killing it.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Like you get a great month and then it's crickets.
Yeah.
Like this month is crickets out there. Everyone's the weather. It's people's lifestyles. Like, you know, you never know. Yeah. So that's entrepreneurship for you.
Totally. So how's your husband with all that? How has he been throughout this whole ride?
Great. I mean, he's an entrepreneur too. So he went on his own with a truck body manufacturing company about the same time, 10 years ago. So we both are. So
he gets it.
He gets it. Yeah. And it's great though. We don't really talk business at home. He's a finance major and we both kind of have the skill set to run our companies, and at home it's family and rejuvenating. We've been able to really separate that very well, and we're both very financially compatible.
Gotcha.
Which is very interesting. I think people always ask, you know, when we got married, do you guys have a joint or separate bank account? Yeah. It's like, oh, this is an interesting question, and everyone's different, and we've always been quite compatible with our spending habits. Savings, you know, our goals in terms financially and family and kids and whatnot. So I think we've been married 25 years next year. So yeah.
You were like an example to strive for.
Right? No, I mean,
awesome.
I definitely married the right guy, compatible. Yeah. But at 25, you don't know what 50 is going to look like. Yeah. And so I think we can reflect now that we've done well together as a team.
Yeah.
Because we do have the same kind of spending and whatnot habits, and we communicate quite openly about, you know, what we need to save for and what the goals are going into our 50s, which is crazy to think, but it's here faster than anyone can imagine. Crazy to think that I started Cranked at 40 and here we are, I'm already at 50. Yeah.
Well, I thought I read that, you know, I was reading like on your webpage even about like the beginnings. And so, you were 40 when you started it.
I was.
Yeah.
I know.
That's a leap.
Huge leap.
Like everybody thinks you got to start something in your 20s now, right? So.
No, I don't think I could have done it in my 20s, honestly. No, I don't think I would have been able to be patient enough and really take deals that are profitable. You know, your ego might get a bit in the way in your 20s where you just want the like fast, flashy. And I feel sorry for everyone starting like young now because social media is so much pressure. You know, you think everyone else is killing it and there you are grinding it out. And I see it as like, I know different, like behind the scenes, everyone's grinding it out. There's no overnight successes. What we see on social is such a snapshot of our most perfect moments. Right. And that's why I love coming on these kind of, like you inviting me and where I'm very open and honest about the struggles, the mental health struggles I've had, you know, cash flow struggles we've had, and all that stuff that comes up with entrepreneurship.
I think that's one of the reasons I love talking to you so much, because it's refreshing. Like I love reading like biographies about entrepreneurs, like especially like, you know, like I've read the Steve Jobs, Walter Isaacson biography, and I'm actually re-listening to it right now. And I was just chatting with somebody this morning about it. And I've read a whole bunch, like Richard Branson's one of my favorites, and so on and so forth. Phil Shoe Dog, one of my favorites.
Nike, yeah.
The reason I love it is because I want to hear about the struggle. Like we have these iconic like businesses in the world and these iconic entrepreneurs, And I want to hear that they were almost bankrupt 10 times, or that
Absolutely.
cash flow was a struggle, or that they, struggle. Like, that's what I want to hear about, because that's relatable as an entrepreneur as well. And so chatting with you is also, I love that you're sharing that message, because you're right. Like on Instagram, like everybody's killing it.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And they say, oh my God, Crank's killing it. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
No, like we're struggling just as much as everyone else. As you grow, costs are bigger, you bigger team, you got so much more on your plate to manage. And that doesn't always mean you're killing it. That doesn't mean profits. And then taking care of yourself. Because for me, that's wealth is, am I okay? Right? So if I'm not okay, that's not wealth at all. I mean, I'm old enough now that I've unfortunately buried a few friends that are quite a bit younger, and you really start to see that, your health is so important, your mental health, your physical health, time with your family, your community, your relationships, whether it's, personal, business, all that stuff is wealth for me. Yeah. And then if those are all solid, the profitable deals seem to come our way. Right. People want to work with us, and I want to work with them. Right. Right. There's no game playing. It's, this is what I can offer and this is what I can offer. Can we do it? Right. And if not, no one's winning. I don't like that. I don't like negotiation where one wins and walks away. Haha. I agree. Right? That's, to me, that's not business. That's not how I want to do business. And maybe that's why we've grown slower. But that's okay for me, because every deal I take makes sense. And if it's not a great deal, we learn from it. We will never do that kind of deal again. Right. So I think that's admirable, but I also think that is, I mean, I feel the same way about our business. Like, I'd rather be on a marathon run than a sprint. I'm looking at companies that are around us in similar spaces, and they're on sprints and likely will sell their companies. And that's never been the goal that we've had here. I mean, slow and consistent growth is perfectly fine. So, and enjoy the ride. Yeah. Because you can really grab some meaningful moments in relationships when you have a nice slow growth. I agree. And like long term, right? That's going to last you. And if you end up selling or whatnot, everyone's going to be very supportive of it, and you'll go on to do even bigger and better things with those relationships you've built. And I've spoken about that nonstop. I started building relationships at KPMG when I was this little 27-year-old starting my articling, and I still to this day can walk over and see the partners there and say hi. And I'm sure if Crank didn't work out and I said, I'm coming back, they'd take you. They would. I think sure so. Would, Like, I've spoken there a few times on Entrepreneurship. They buy bars. That started, over 20 years ago. Yeah. It's crazy to think, right? Yeah. So, and some relationship building, you don't see it. You're in the marathon, right? You might meet someone, and then 3-4 years later, they come across your path and want to do business with you. Well, I think it takes time too. I mean, sometimes like you can't go into it thinking I'm building relationships. Like, I see people go to networking events, and literally I call them like business card dispensers, because I'm like, that's not going to work, guys. Never. Like, no. And don't expect business just because you met this person. But go to the networking events. But go. Absolutely. 100%. This is a funny story. It was a snowstorm. I don't know what year it was, pre-COVID. It was a snowstorm, and I think the chamber was having one of their networking, Chamber of Commerce was. Yeah. And I'm going, because drove in the snowstorm, and I think there were like 10 people there, because it was so bad. But one of the guys there was David Jackson from Quality Vending. Oh, yeah. Okay. And we started talking, and like 6 months later, we're in his vending machines. That would never have happened. No. I would never have met him, probably, but I had to go, and it wasn't the intention of getting cranked bars somewhere. It was just about meeting some people and laughing that we were all out in a snowstorm. But those are the kind of relationships you want to build, because they come across very organically. And I agree. Right? I've met, but it makes sense. Yes. I've met some of my best friends through networking events today, because they have their own business or whatever. I actually just mentioned, like, I hadn't gone in a while. I've got 2 young girls, like they're turning 4 and 1 years old. So I had not gone to a networking event probably in about a year. And I just started going in the last few weeks back to some. And I found it so refreshing to just talk to, again, other business owners and entrepreneurs. And they're talking to me about, like, they were pretty early stages, these young, young people. And that was actually so inspiring. That's awesome, too. Yeah. But they're in their 20s and they've got an idea, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, this is why you need to come to these, because, like,
people like you and I think need a community of people around us to share these stories. One, so it's great for mentorship. It's great for like all of that, but it's also great just to know that, hey, there's a community of people that are trying to do awesome things out there. And that's nice that we're all struggling together, but it's like, it's nice.
Well, and I'm on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce now. So I'll be pushing for people to come out to events and how
there you have it. That's a sales pitch, right?
Yeah, right. Like I'm a huge fan of getting within your schedules, obviously. It's hard to go to everything, but a lot of people don't want to go because they don't know anyone. But if I'm there, come say hi. I'm like the nicest person. I will talk your ear off and introduce you to 10 other people.
Well, and I find Winnipeg's great for that. Like there's always people willing to share and help out. Speaking of mentors and sharing, do you have any mentors that have really helped you out along the way, or people that you would credit? It's like, oh yeah, I really looked up to that person, or still do. And how is that?
I was thinking about that. It's got to be my dad. Like I just had a meeting with him last week. He came into the crank shop, and when he comes in, because he helps with my accounting, when he comes in with a binder of papers, I know we're meeting. He's not dad. He's accountant, and he was a partner at BDO, and then he was my first, he went on his own. So he was my first, way of seeing entrepreneurship in my family.
Gotcha.
He started his own practice in Polo Park.
Gotcha. Okay.
And did that for a long time. And that was an eye-opener in terms of sacrifice of time with family. Money was tight in our family at that point. We were little. We didn't really understand it. We spent a lot of weekends in his office at work to see him. And he'd come out to the lake just on weekends, even though we were there all summer kind of thing. And that was, I don't think I recognized how hard that was until I started the crank journey.
Right.
Like how hard that would have been at his age, similar to what I was, doing that for his family, going on his own. And he did it for quite a while, and then ended up at Myers Norris Penny.
Okay.
And stayed there for quite a while. So he still is a very conservative accountant. He's so smart. He's so up and up on all the stuff with taxes, the areas that I don't love to do.
Gotcha.
I can ask him any question. Do you think this is a good expense? How do I fix this? What do you think? But then he has a really good boundary that I am still his daughter, right? And wanting the best for Cranked Energy for the future. So I'm so lucky that I can just call him and say, hey, there's this opportunity to reduce this cost, but we have to buy X amount volume. And he'll say, you have the money, do it. Or he'll say, you can't do it right now.
Gotcha.
And I love that.
Yeah.
So that, he's definitely the one I go to that's like safe.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Do your boys spend any time at Cranked?
Yeah, they do. My oldest was the delivery driver last year during school.
Okay. Yeah.
So a few customers said, hey, your driver cut me off. And I was like, I called Cole. I'm like, hey, you can't drive. Like, you got to be a good driver. It was so funny. He's driving a branded van. And, and the twins did work this summer. They're almost 15. So they can, come in and do some packaging, dishwashing. They do a lot of that stuff. And now that they're starting to pay for their own golf and all that fun stuff 15-year-olds want, and I think as they're getting older, they're seeing how Tim and I work really hard in our businesses. And yes, we have flexibility, and yes, we drive them to and from school. And there's those other parts that I don't think mom and dad do anything. They're always around kind of, but as they're getting older, I really think they're starting to see the sacrifice and how much time and energy it takes to run two companies.
Yeah. Is that important to you, that the kids are involved in the business on some level? I mean,
but if they didn't want to do either, totally fine. I'd like them to follow their own paths and whatever they're interested in. But I think it's important for them to at least see what it is to be an entrepreneur and the flexibility we have. But I love being a CPA at KPMG too. I think and I talk about that all the time, the roots that I had in those 5-6 years I was working crazy hours and managing 10 clients and learning how to speak to clients and learning how to speak to partners and answer questions. Those are invaluable skills. I would love my kids to go work definitely corporate.
Yeah.
And no time pressure, no deadline, no working crazy hours for no money. Like
It's-
those are important skills.
Yeah, it's funny because it reminds me of one of my best friends. He's at Manitoba Hydro, and he's a CPA as well, actually. I think he's probably one of the happiest people I know.
Really?
And yeah, and
That's awesome.
and I often joke with him that it's like I think you would I wouldn't like his life.
Right.
His family's great, all that stuff I would
Yeah.
love, obviously. But like from a professional standpoint, I'm like, no, that's not for me. But likewise, like what I do would definitely not be for him either. And so, but I
1000%.
look at him all the time and I'm like, I think you might be way happier than me. and so when I
Yeah.
describe it is like, you know, you never really know. It's kind of like when people talk about, you know, you understand people that don't want to have kids when you have kids. Like I'm so happy that I have kids, but I also understand the choice
Totally.
not to.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
That's freedom too, is
Exactly.
choice. Just choice in general is
Yeah.
such a wealth for us, you know, being able to choose
Yeah.
our life and what it's going to look like.
Oh,
and what
100%.
what it's going to mean to be happy. And
Yeah.
if it's going to work for Hydro and the relationships built there and the income producing there, then amazing,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, like and then it's the same thing, like this entrepreneurial journey. You realize it's like this is not for everybody.
it's not for everyone. There's no off switch. I was
No.
talking about that the other day. We never say we're completely sold out of bars. Sometimes the special flavors,
Mhm.
but we won't say no to a thousands of bar contract. I'll
Yeah.
say, okay, how do we do this?
Yeah.
How many hours? What am I working? How late? Who am I calling in? Like I've never said, you know, my shop's closed for orders for the next 2 weeks. We can't do it. I never.
Yeah.
I just would never do that. There's always a way. And I remember listening to a podcast on the Cliff Bar, or it was the Lara Bar.
Okay,
And
yeah.
she started the same, you know, she had a big order and she called in her dad and they worked overnight. And that was how Cranked was built. It's
Yeah.
not saying, there's no off switch.
Yeah.
There's no real boundaries.
Right.
That's small business as you're starting out. I think at 10 years in, I have some really good boundaries because things can wait.
Mhm.
Emails can wait. I don't have to be on my phone after 5 o'clock as much.
Yeah.
But before, heck no.
Yeah.
Anything. Text me anytime.
Yeah.
I'll like drop off orders
Yeah.
all over the city.
Do what you gotta
That's
do.
Hustle all the time.
Totally. So you've talked a little bit about like your definition of wealth. I want to make sure we get that clear.
Mhm.
Like you said like having the ability to choose, time with family. What else? Like, how would you describe, like, if you were that 10, like, what does life look like for you at a 10?
Well, still being very involved in my company, but having a really good team where I was so high level that I wasn't, you know, still really in the nitty gritty of it all the time. And that, you know, cash flows wasn't such a scary thing every single month for us. That would be really good freedom. And I'm such a community person. I would love to volunteer more than I already do.
Love that.
Community is huge wealth for me. And anyone who knows me knows it's been part of my life since I was young, that this is nothing abnormal. We don't even talk about half the stuff Cranked as a company does, or I do personally, for the community, the involvement. That to me is wealth. Time with my parents, you know, as they're aging. You forget, like, there's just such a tiny bit of time where you're not taking care of small kids if you have children and your parents are still okay, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, now kids are growing up, but now you're spending more time with parents, right? Helping them out. And I don't think I'm ever not going to be tired.
Yeah.
But to me, that's not part of my self-care. To me, isn't sleeping or resting. It's, can I volunteer with my dog?
Right.
One more extra day this month. And can I go have coffee with my parents on a whim and leave the shop and it's in good hands? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because your brand, I mean, I think quite literally is like the personification of that type of wealth. I mean, it's and I'm gonna give Janet Dant a shout out here because I see her representing.
Janet's great.
She's so good. But like she's like, to me, like always on the go, and then she's always got a crank bar with her too.
I know.
You know, and she
has
does
more energy than I do. I don't know how she does it. Seriously.
I don't know. But like to me, that's what Cranked represents, is that level of living. It's like, hey, it's something so that I can go do that, so I can spend time with my family, so that I can
So
be there.
true. I love
Yeah.
that you said that. Love that you put it that way, because I haven't really thought about it in that context. We're just a grab and go fuel, so you can just go on your busy day and do good things and be good to people and spend time with your loved ones. And yeah, that's exactly why we do what we do. And that's why we support so many initiatives. And that's how you grow companies now. If you have a food product, you got to get food into people's mouths. How are you going to do that? I don't want to sit at golf tournaments every weekend handing samples out. Like, that's just not for us. If we can support an event and they hand out bars right there, that's great marketing for us. And that's why we support a lot of initiatives, because big or small, if you're taking time to put on an event that's money's going to charity, I love that. I want to help you. I don't want you to go buy generic granola bars at Costco.
No.
I want you to have great fuel and it come from a local company.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, we've in the events, like, you've always been supportive that anything we've done. And even when it probably wasn't easy to do as a company, I love that you've always pushed that. And it's like, this is something that we're going to do.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure my accountant at one point said, like, whoa.
Take it easy.
Like, I don't know if you realize how much went out the door, right? Because you don't. It's yes. I would say yes to everything. And I still say yes to a lot, trust me. But as you grow, the asks do get bigger and more frequent too. So we have had to be very mindful of where that money is going, because I am, in the end, I'm not a not-for-profit. I am a profit business.
Right.
And to be able to continue to give back, we have to make money and pay staff and pay our suppliers and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I have to draw some type of salary. It's piddly, but I have to take some money for my self. Otherwise, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. So your definition of wealth and freedom, has that changed over even the last 10 years, or would you say that's...
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think when you're starting out, I think back to KPMG, and it was money, all money.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not making any money, and so buying your first house, it's money, and then you have kids and it's just money, always focused on money.
Yeah.
And then we've always lived within our means. Like I said, we've been on the same page with our financial decisions, and you start to see those rewards as you start getting older, and the kids get older, and they're not as expensive in terms of the everyday stuff. And that's been nice.
Yeah.
The money's not the first thing on the mind all the time. That's wealth to me, is that it's not constantly on my brain. And it used to be 20s and 30s, and even up until 5 years ago, was just constant. But as I got to 50, money is not everything. It does provide freedom, but I find so much other pleasure in, relationships and just hanging out with friends and family, and, going to the lake and sitting in the backyard, that kind of stuff. And I know that sounds cheesy for those who are grinding it out right now.
Yeah.
But I did. I was a grinder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got to do that.
Yeah.
I would never say don't grind in your 20s and 30s and 40s until you feel like you can step back.
Yeah. Do you, did your kids, I'm just going to speak from my experience. My kids changed my mindset around a lot of these things. It was like the day, and I'll never forget this conversation I had with my dad, because I remember when my wife Sam was pregnant with our first daughter, JL, and I remember like chatting with my dad about, not wanting, I don't want this to sound bad, I didn't want my whole life to be just about my kids, because I had ambitions and things that I wanted to do. And what he said to me was, I don't think that'll happen. In fact, I think what this will do, like having kids, will actually amplify everything you wanted to do. And I found that to be the case. Like, it made everything more important, because actually it was more about them and doing it for them than just doing it for myself at this point. So do you think, like, kids, like your boys in particular, have they amplified that for you, like what you wanted to do?
Well, and the funny thing is, I had trouble getting pregnant with the twins. The twins are IVF babies. So that started, like, I wanted those boys so bad, you know, after I had Cole and couldn't get pregnant again. It was almost like a switch went off, where it was like, I want this so bad. I paid so much money to have these kids. And so right after that, but it wasn't money focused after that. It's funny, with the first child, it was like, getting all the pictures and the cute outfits. And honestly, with the twins, I was so grateful that I had them. It was hand-me-downs and like there was no money spent on camps and stuff, that kind of stuff. And I love birthday parties and whatnot, but our kids are all in November, and it was always such a busy month that we would just have family birthdays, and we would never have the big birthday parties with the big expenses. That just wasn't us. So that's changed. That definitely amplified. Like I really wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
And that made my decision to grow Cranked really easy because I thought at some point I'm going to be able to be home or taping a podcast this and not in the kitchen.
Right.
I'm not going to be running deliveries in my car with 3 kids in the back at some point. I just kept knowing it's going to some point be a little more free for me. And it has. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you big on goal setting?
No, isn't that funny?
That's interesting.
Yeah. Like in terms of financial or business? Or personal?
I would say all.
Well, look, I've run 4 marathons. So I am a goal setter. Once I decide to do something, I competed in fitness for
You're clearly 4 a good
years.
Executor. Like you get stuff
Yes.
done. Yeah.
Once the switch goes, and it's the same at work. I would push. We didn't buy our packaging machine until I literally couldn't package another bar in the foot sealer or I was going to lose my mind. And then I was like, we need one.
Yeah.
And I need to finance it and I need to get it in right now. Right. And that frustrates a lot of people because I turn the switch goes on, but I'm so ready for that decision. I'm comfortable with it. I'm not outside my comfort zone. So I think in terms of goals, would we like to be across Canada? Yeah, but I think that's too big of a goal. That would stress me out. Mm-hmm. So we're opening up to Alberta in the fall. That's a great project.
Very cool.
And we're going to focus on Alberta. We do have some Saskatchewan and we do have some Ontario and we do have some BC, but we're really going to open up to Alberta. So I think setting goals that way has been smart for myself and for the company because we can then scale the next step.
Yeah.
And then do it properly.
Yeah.
Because I really feel you have one chance to scale and make a good impression, especially outside of your own province.
Yeah.
Here it's easy. Like people know us.
Yeah.
Through whatever. In Alberta, nobody knows us.
Yeah.
So we're back to square one.
Right.
We're one of a few people on the shelf to choose from in the fridge. Why am I choosing you?
Yeah.
I can't just go out there and sample. Like, so what are we going to do? How is it going to translate into Alberta?
Do you think food is more challenging than some other businesses because of all the things that you like the hoops you have to jump through with like a food product?
Food's tricky and the margins are tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's volume based.
Yeah.
So if you make any money, you're doing well.
Yeah.
But service industry is just as difficult. I think every industry right now is getting squeezed on both ends. And especially when you try to grow outside your province where you've got your base of customers and everyone, and then you think it's going to translate. And then you're like, no, I didn't love it. I get that a lot. Like, no, I'm not a fan of the bar. Everyone here is like, what? How can you not love cranked bars?
Yeah.
But you really get humbled when people outside your own province start trying it.
So
you got to work at that.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? I mean, like, have you encountered some big, like been tripped up a bunch or at certain points and being
last week?
Yeah.
Huge retailer.
Yeah.
Didn't love it.
Yeah.
Nope. Not going to take it. Didn't love it.
Do you take it personally?
For like a second.
Okay.
10 years ago, I would have cried. Full out. Would have gone home bald. Been like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Why don't they love it?
Yeah.
Now, I don't love every product I try, right? Like
It's fair, yeah.
Right? And there's nothing against the product. It's just maybe it's not something I would choose or integrate. And then the products I really love, it's not just about the taste, it's about the company. I think, people are investing more in the purpose of a brand versus the brand. Like I said, you can have a beautiful wrapper and then the product inside is and the company itself is I'm probably not going to buy it more than once or twice, right?
Yeah.
So we want people to keep reinvesting in us, not just for the taste and the innovation of our flavors. And we do have a new flavor coming out in September. Yep.
Exciting.
So stay tuned.
Okay.
But that our company does good.
Yeah.
We're good people. We donate a lot. We use every piece of bar on our shop for something, whether it's samples or helping the shelters or whatnot. So, that's an interesting way to think about it.
It's a tough one though, because like the taking it personally thing, because I do the same thing. I mean, even to this day, I still, I'd say I don't handle rejection all that well.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's interesting having like my team around me, because like I will show them that I handle it well, but like internally I still like, I'm like,
I think that's because you're an empath. You're like that. You love community too. And
absolutely.
And so it hurts briefly.
Yeah.
And that's totally okay.
Yeah.
It's not intentional hurt.
No.
That's what I always say is they're not intentionally saying your product's yuck.
Yeah.
They're just saying it's not for me. And
it's totally
I
okay.
literally moved on the next day to another retail, and they loved it and took it instantly. So I think you can't step back for too long and then be in your head for too long about it. You got to get right back in the game.
Right.
There's a reason your company's growing and doing well and you have clients and they're happy. There's a reason for that. It's not because one person said, "Oh,
and in fact,
product."
like, we don't want to be for everybody. I mean, I don't think Endeavor should be a brand for everybody.
Right.
But it's still at the same time, when I get those rejections, I'm just like, well, why don't they
Why?
want us? Yeah.
Wait, where are they going?
Yeah, exactly.
What can we do better?
Yeah.
I think that's part of business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think if I didn't care, or if you didn't care, maybe we're not doing the right things. I mean, maybe we shouldn't be doing what we're doing.
I always ask, what didn't you like about it? That's it.
Yeah.
I don't take feedback as criticism anymore. I used to.
Yeah.
If you said you didn't like the bar, I thought you were criticizing my product. And what? Oh my goodness, I worked so hard on this and I love it. I eat one every day. How now it's feedback. What didn't you love about it?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something we can fix or change or help with, I will absolutely look at implementing some changes. But if it's something we can't change, and like the formulation, our formulations are set. Yeah. We're not changing the bar. We're not taking out ingredients. We're not adding things. It's how it is. Yeah. Those things I can't control anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So I just read about one of your interviews with Dragon's Den, one of your pitches, and I absolutely loved that. I think if I read it right, you were at your office or your shop, and then you walked in and basically like I say unprepared, but you're prepared for it all the time. I think like 10 years in, you have your elevator pitch, as they like to call it. And you walked in.
But that was my fourth audition.
Okay.
Like, I don't think people realize I kept going back in for some reason. Maybe that was a goal setting in me. It was like, I feel like I can get on this show. Like, why don't they want me? Yeah. And it wasn't that I wanted them to want me or Cranked, but I really felt every time I didn't get on, it was opportunity for me to go back, do better, grow, try again, and prove them like I need to get on. Like, you need to have me on because look how much I've done since year 1 and now I'm at year 10. Yeah. Like, it fueled me. Rejection can sometimes fuel you to make improvements, do better, prove them wrong, use it as incentive to, I left. I had to work that day because my team was off, and I think it was like 4:00, and I had to be there before 5. And I was actually talking to a customer who came in to buy bars, and we were talking. And then I said, "Oh, I gotta go. I'm pitching at Dragon's Den." And she's like, "What? Get out of here! What are you doing talking to me at the front?" But that's just me. I love our customers. So I ran in with a cooler and said, "Look, I'm back for the 4th time. I'm 10 years in, and we have a facility. I have X amount in capital equipment, no debt, great sales, packaging. We trademarked in the U.S. and Canada." And they were like, "You're ready." Yeah. And they did say it's going to be tough. It's food products are really, really tough right now. And while we might want you on the show, we can't guarantee anything once you get there. But we really think your story's great and what you've done is worth showcasing. Right. So in the end, they gave me a spot.
So I love, because I think it was on the U of M's website that I read about that experience. And at the end of it, or at the beginning of it, I think of the article, you said, I've won just by getting to this point. Mm-hmm. Like, when they announced your name and they like talked about Cranked. Mm-hmm. Like, tell me about that. Tell me what that felt like when that was going on.
When I got the actual call saying I'm going to be on, I could have stopped right there. Yeah. I think for me, it was validation that the producers of the show saw value in terms of the journey. Mm-hmm. It wasn't necessarily going to be something the Dragons would want. They didn't know that. Like, they didn't know. And obviously I can't say how it ended and whether it will even air. They overshoot, so you don't know until a week before. But if it airs, people will get to see what happened in the den. And that was crazy and exciting and so stressful. And who gets to go in front of 6 massive entrepreneurs? Yeah. Exactly how you see on TV, right? Totally. So either way, I thought, you know what? I've won. Like, validated that, Cranked is a company that, and they loved the product too, like the producers. So that's great that they put me on. And I just felt like it was the next stepping stone. You got to do uncomfortable things right? Like that's part of wealth too, is growing as a person and not staying safe all the time and challenging yourself and sitting in those spaces where you feel like you're going to vomit from anxiety. And why am I doing this? Oh, what if they hate me? What if they don't? Oh my God, what if it doesn't work out? What if it does work out? Then what does that mean for Cranked? I have a partner? Like all this, oh my God, I've never had a partner.
That's scary in itself.
What if
too,
they
right?
don't love it? Then I've gone on TV and not got a deal. Like there's all these emotions and you've got to go through it. Just go through it.
Did you ever, in that whole process, did you ever have any like, holy shit, what am I doing?
Yes.
Yeah, probably many.
Many.
Yeah, okay.
Right up until the second I walked on that stage, I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love, and this is my interpretation of it. So like, it seems like that was your fourth audition.
Yeah.
And so you seem like the person that would have been very prepared for number one.
Over-prepared.
Maybe 3. And then number 4 comes around. It's like, you know what? You're talking to your customer. And then it's like, I'm just going to go do this. And you walk in and you just laid it out for them.
1,000%.
Yeah.
The first time I auditioned, I brought a mini fridge.
Yeah.
A Cranked mini fridge. I lugged it to the audition with my cooler. And I brought my sister with me to help me. And I think I had like $500 in sales that month, like $500. But I wanted to put myself in front of people that I knew would make me nervous, and I needed to talk about my company and my product, and plain and simple. Mm-hmm. And they were like, the packaging's yuck. I get it. It was clear with sticker, but you need to hear that, because then I was like, at some point I'm going to have packaging, at some point. And then COVID was a virtual audition, so that was tough. That definitely was a lot tougher. But I had a very controlled pitch. It was very punny and cute and exactly what you'd see. And I think it flopped. I don't think it was authentic. And then this last one, I literally had my hair and like a hairnet at the kitchen. I put a hat on, no makeup. Yeah. Crank sweatshirt, probably had peanut butter on it. Like literally jeans. I think I wore these jeans and I like literally ran in. Yeah. No pitch. Yeah. Here's the product. I brought some samples. This is what we've done. Yeah. This is my 4th time. Yeah. Put me on. I said, I'm going to keep coming back till someone tries a bar. And it was authentically me. Yeah. And I think that's come with age a little bit. I don't want to worry about what everyone's going to think when I walk in the room anymore. What I look like or, what I sound like. I'm just authentically me. And
isn't that like just almost like the perfect, like, especially for this podcast, we're talking about freedom, and like true wealth and freedom. Like you sound so much freer going into that last audition.
So free. You're right. Because I let every expectation down that I had put upon myself to, people say you have to have an elevator pitch. It has to be a minute. It has to have this in it. Mm-hmm. If you love your company as much as you do, and you know your product as well as you do, and your story, and you're not lying about anything, and you're not overinflating anything, you can go in there and talk for 1 minute and come across as the best representative for your brand and your product. Right. So that's free. That's really free.
So Jason Brooks was the psychologist that we had on, and he talked about the mental constraints. Like there's many constraints that get in the way of people becoming free in their lives and experiencing that true wealth. But the biggest ones to overcome are those like mental constraints.
That's great.
And I think that's exactly what you're describing to me is like, like you went in like pitch number 1 and now you're at pitch 4 and it was like.
But that comes with confidence too.
Totally.
You think you have to do this on pitch number 1 because this is what everyone tells you have to do. Bring your props, bring your thing. By pitch 4, you're like, I got to work, first of all, because I'm in it. And then I'm just going to show up. Yeah. And if you love me, you love me. Mm-hmm. And if not, I was going to walk away being like, all right, maybe we'll try again next year, but maybe not. But I got orders to fill and I've got community stuff we've got going on, and let's just keep moving forward. So it wasn't going to make or break. In year 1, it was probably like, I need a partner. Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this myself. Year 10, I'm doing it myself. Yeah. A partner would be an added bonus if it's the right partner, right? So that's freedom too, is having the choice.
So given your experience, given everything you've gone through, what would you share with people listening to us about
good one.
What they should think about if they're trying to experience, especially if they're an entrepreneurial, like they're an entrepreneur like you, what would you tell them to do?
I think my biggest thing, and I spoke about this recently, was like the patience it takes to grow and grow properly and grow smart. And I know in our earlier years, we're so gung-ho, and it's patience is what's going to, like, the longevity. I never thought Cranked would be 10 years in and still selling. Our original bar is one of our best sellers.
It's
still,
really good.
right? Like,
Yeah.
the original, the one flavored bar is still one of our top sellers. And that's longevity. That's patience. That's perfecting customer service and recipe and everything, and taking care of yourself and still managing your relationships. And that might take a bit longer than overnight kind of stuff. So patience in terms of, like, financing and cash flows, it's more of, you know, small changes make the biggest impacts, right? Like, really looking at where you can cut, where you're spending, like, every day little things add up, right? Maybe it's not Instacarting every day, right?
Yeah.
But that's a lifestyle that we've gotten into where we can't get to the store anymore, so we Instacart, and we're always trying to catch up. And when you look at those expenses, I do it at Cranked a lot too. Or we're out of honey. I gotta get honey here somehow. Those mindful, like, preparing, you know, making those small changes have been really good to lean out our cash, like, get into our cash flows a bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, make small changes. You know, maybe it's not coffee every day, right?
You know, that's so funny that you mentioned, like, even Instacart, because, like, just recently I've been like, we should just go, like, it wasn't Instacart, but it was like Skip the Dishes or DoorDash. I'm like, so I live in River Heights. We live around a ton of, like, the restaurants that we're ordering from. I'm like, why don't I just go pick it up?
Right.
You know, like, why don't I just go pick it up?
I know.
It takes 5 minutes.
I know. I do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's just thinking about ways to, you know, improve and save. I mean, I've been saving since I was 25, and this is hilarious because I've put $100 away every week since I was 25.
Yeah.
You know, it's like so small in terms of, but at 25, that was a lot of money.
That was a lot. Yeah.
I wasn't making any money. And
Yeah.
even growing Cranked, I wasn't even taking a salary, but $100, whatever I did get in, $100 went.
Yeah.
And it'll pay for the kids' schooling now. You know, I'm 25 years later, I've got kids that are going to be going to university, 3 of them, and having that saved up. That's where small things make a big impact. And I know we don't want to think of ourselves at 50 when we're 25, but I'm here to tell you, it comes really fast. Yeah. So start saving.
Yeah.
And you know what? Invest in yourself. I always say that, you know, that bank on yourself, man. Like, everyone's happy to give, you know, money to other people and, you know, support their dreams and goals and whatnot. But if you're an entrepreneur, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Give yourself that money.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's hard, but I wish I'd invested more in terms of myself. Like, at the start, like, I can do this confidence wise, you know, money wise. I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you started the company at 40, by the way, because, like, I really do, because, like, we see so many, there's so much messaging out there that's like, you got to start in your 20s, because Mark Zuckerberg was 18 when he started Facebook or whatever. Right. So I love that. I love hearing your story about it, because I think there's a lot of people that think, oh, I'm too old to do this thing,
God.
you know, and 40 obviously we know is not young. 50 is not young. Like, if you're 50, you want to start a business, go do it. But I love that. Yeah, I love that.
I think it's just different. It's going to look differently. You're going to be more conscious of your retirement and what that looks like versus in your 20s, where you can make bigger financial mistakes. You really can. You have more time. And when you're 40, you got to be careful. I was just careful of what the future was going to look like for both my husband and I when we're running our companies. It's different when you do it at that age.
Sure.
Yeah, you can make mistakes in your 20s. You'll figure it out. You'll catch up. But in your 40s, there's
you got one shot.
Yeah. You pull a hamstring and got to get physio, you're paying for it.
Right.
Like, you get injured, there's no extra money kicking around when you start a company at 40. Yeah.
Are there any resources or any, like, I don't know if you're an avid reader or podcaster or anything like that. Is there anything you'd share?
You know what? I listen to a lot of podcasts that are not business related, because I just find the overwhelming amount of info for me isn't good. I've read one really good book that kind of changed the way I saw a lot of things, called Rocket Fuel. Have you read Rocket Fuel?
Yeah.
So it really helped me understand that I'm the visionary and that I really need an integrator, right? So visionary is the one with all the ideas and we're going a million miles. And that's why I have 17 cranked flavors when we could probably pare it down to 10.
Right.
But there's always something else I want to do. And if I look left, everyone needs to look left. And that's not great for business. So you need the integrator, which is really talked about in Rocket Fuel, who says, yes, but you can't do that right now.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. You need to focus on this right now and let's get this project done. That's the integrator. And I see Cranked eventually having a really strong integrator in our company. And that's probably our
Is he your
next
dad
step.
right now? Like he's
No, I think it's me going every which way. And I
Is
have a
it?
really great production manager who's able to say like, no, Cheryl, we're not going to produce that.
Yeah.
We're producing this right now. But, as things change and organizations grow and whatnot, a COO at some point will be necessary. And I really want to find one that's going to help the visionary in me remain a visionary, but is really able to, that's freedom for me too.
That has to be,
giving great ideas and I want to do this flavor and I want to do this and I want to help these communities, and then have an integrator that says, yes, but let's get a plan and let's focus it and let's figure out.
Gotcha.
So that, and then for the business stuff, I do listen to How We Built This. Do you listen to How We Built This by Guy Raz?
No.
Oh my goodness.
I got it.
He's got a different founder on every week. So everything from Cliff Bar, Dyson, who was on, I just listened to, Banana Republic.
So we have a tradition that we're just starting up, and it's because I've stolen it from Stephen Bartlett and the Diary of the CEO, and I love their podcast. So the tradition that we're starting up is that the previous guest leaves a question for the following guest, and
amazing.
so I've got a question here that they left for you.
That's so
and I don't know what it is yet. So this is
you're opening the envelope.
I'm literally opening the envelope like the
those
Oscars, and we'll see what it is, and then of course I'm going to ask you to do the same thing for our next guest.
Amazing.
Okay, so the question is, 12 months from now, where do you hope your freedom level will be? This is a two-parter, I guess. And what does that look like? And what are you going to do to make it happen?
Well, since I'm at a 7, I would like to be at an 8. I'm not going to say, oh my God, it's going to be 10 in a year, because I know it takes longer than that. I would like to I definitely don't want to go to a 6 or a 5. So let's say even staying at a 7 is quite nice right now. Yeah. But if I'm going to improve it and go to an 8, that would mean we've expanded into a couple more provinces and production's going really well. We've got a new machine being installed that's going to scale us, and we're going to be able to replicate what we've done in Winnipeg in some smaller scale in another province and get some good feedback and start growing that brand. That's what we do it for, is to have Cranked in every household across Canada would be ideal. So I would say 8 would allow me to be comfortable in the growth that's happening and still not being at the kitchen 15 hours. I don't want to reverse back to having to be there constantly, but also being able to keep my lifestyle like this and enjoy my family and my friends and maybe get a trip or two.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a great question.
Yeah. Well, kind of digest that one probably a little bit.
Yeah.
But, okay, Cheryl. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Me too.
I know I appreciate you getting vulnerable with me and sharing your story, because that's what this is all about. So thank you for that. And where can people find you? Where can people find Cranked as well?
Well, follow us on Instagram at Cranked Energy, as well as online, www.crankedenergy.com. We've got a list of retailers, but all the major grocery stores, and you can also order online. We deliver right to your home. And
go do it. Go order them. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Cheryl.
Take care.